Hey everyone, it's World Film Geek here, and I'm interviewing for the third time Chris von Hoffmann. He's the director of Drifter and Monster Party. He directs a segment in the upcoming anthology Phobias, coming out on March the 19th. Enjoy the interview, folks. How you doing?
How are you?
Oh, it's great. It's great to be talking to you again, man. This is the third time we've talked. First was Drifter and Monster Party. Now we're going to talk about Phobias, and it's pretty exciting.
That's a charm.
It is, and I gotta say, I watched the film, and I really don't have a favorite segment because they were all so good in their own way.
That's the goal.
So my first question is, how did you get involved in the project?
Well, I worked with Eric Fleischman before. Him and his he had been championing he had been he was like sort of like his baby. He had been championing it for a while, and he had brought me on because him and I worked together on Monster Party, and so yeah, it was like 2017 that we first started to meet with him and like Radio Silence when they came on, and they were executive producing and like they were giving feedback on the scripts, and it was sort of like an on and off process for a little while, and then finally when the money became secure, we shot in the middle of 2018 into like the fall. That's pretty much how it came on.
That's awesome. And so for those unfamiliar, what exactly is, I'm gonna try to pronounce this, Ephebiphobia?
Ephebiphobia.
Ephebiphobia, okay.
It's funny, like the original segment was called pedophobia, and it didn't really seem like accurate at all. I realized that later down the line. It wasn't really accurate at all for like what the concept was. So I didn't even know that there was something. I didn't even know there was such a thing called ephebiphobia, and I was like, oh, that makes total sense. This is exactly what this concept is, and it sounds kind of unique, and it's cool that like not many people really know what that is. So yeah, I mean like that's. I'm sorry. What was the question?
So for those who don't know what it is, like what exactly is
what does it mean?
Ephebiphobia? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's like fear of like youth, fear of teenagers, just sort of people that just have a fear of young people, basically.
That's really interesting, and I gotta say, with some of these the segment titles, I actually had to look them up myself just to see like what exactly are these phobias, and I found them so fascinating. And yeah, Phobophobia. I mean, it sounded like, and even the whole concept, it reminded me of some of the classics like Class of 1984, and even some of like the lower indie B movies where you had the students stalk the teachers and all that. And I found that to be quite intriguing.
Yeah, I mean, like that's yeah, that was definitely the goal. I mean, it's kind of like trying to I mean, like there was like this French film. It was actually like the original version of The Strangers. It was called Them.
Hmm.
Came out like 2007, I believe, and that was like. I mean, that film was like far. I mean, there's really no humor in that film. That film was like far more like just very somber and very dark. The French version. That was kind of like a slight jumping off point. I had to deal with like students and teachers, but this was kind of just going more like kind of getting to know the students a little bit more and kind of elaborating more on their characters.
Yeah, and I found that really intriguing. And there was a movie I remember in 1989. It was called Hell High, and it was about these students who would constantly harass this teacher. And then finally one night they decide to play the ultimate prank on her and break into her house. And that's what this reminded me of because the teacher,
Oh,
does exact revenge. And I thought of that movie right away when I saw your segment.
that's an amazing title. I'm not familiar with that film. I gotta watch that movie now.
Yeah, it was actually pretty good for what it was, and I was like, I remember seeing it like so many years ago, but I was like, that's what I thought of when I saw your segment, and it was just amazing, just to see the kind of like.
Cool.
So you got to work with Lauren Miller Rogan. What was it like working with her?
Yeah, she was really. I mean, she was fantastic. I mean, she was just as good as you would hope. I mean, she was uh, because she had done a lot of comedies, like Looking for a Good Time. She had done a lot of comedies, and written a lot of comedy. So she was sort of like known as a comedic actress and had a comedic voice, and she was very funny. But she's also she has a face for drama. That's the thing, and she's very grounded in the comedic works that she's done. And then she also directed this film called Like Father, this Netflix film with Kelsey Grammer and Kristen Bell, which is sort of like a drama with comedy in it. So she definitely like understood the balance of drama and a sense of humor, and could ground that tightrope really well. And I met with her, and she also just wanted to do it. I think she really wanted to try something different, and really prove that she could do a role like this, and just really kind of go for it. And then that's the best thing you want from an actor or an actress, someone that just really wants to go all the way with it, and has something to prove. So
yeah,
she was great, man. She was fantastic.
I totally agree. I always love it when actors, who are known for one thing, like to do something different because they want to show that, I can do this. And like you said, Lauren does it here, and I've been seeing that a lot lately with a lot of these films. A lot of these stars who are known for all these different types of genres and doing something different. I think that's really just shows like the acting range, and that's what makes them actors. Like they should be able to do various things. So how long did shooting take on this segment, and did you face any difficulties at all?
Well, I think all the segments took about like 3 days, or mine was like 3 nights. It was 3 night shoots, so they're all segments were pretty tight. But I that can be a good thing, kind of keep you on your toes a little bit. But difficulties, I think just sort of there were like sort of like typical difficulties of just trying to get like the right amount of coverage, especially with like some stunt work, before the sun comes up, just like sort of straightforward difficulties. But I will say that I kind of knew what I was getting myself into, and I kind of rewrote the script quite a bit to fit the schedule in a pretty organic way. So the shoot was actually shockingly, like for my segment, was probably the smoothest shoot that I'd ever done. I mean, it was still stressful, but like it went by pretty straightforwardly.
Compared to Drifter and Monster Party, I'm sure.
Yeah, that was like psychotic. That was a very very rough times, but no, but I think just once you kind of do it after a while, you kind of really you work kind of smart and strategize and rewrite according to the schedule. And I recommend that to a lot of filmmakers. To like sometimes you got to change things, and actually that makes it a little bit better, because when you get more time, you focus on like how much time you should be spending on what, and it just makes the shoot kind of go a little bit smoother.
That's awesome. So did you actually get to see the rest of the film? And if so, what did you think of the other segments?
I've seen early cuts. I've actually not seen like the finished product, like completely finished, but I've seen like several cuts of the movie. I mean, like I think all this. I like what I liked is that I think tonally, all the segments are pretty tonally in line with each other. That was like definitely a conversation that we were all having in advance, because this is not like it's not you have to feel like kind of one cohesive experience, because it's kind of like loosely interconnected, all of them, and so you're wanting to make sure that like the tone, and that's why we all shot the same lenses, the same camera, and you want to make sure like the tone was there, and so that was the thing that I was happy with. I thought the tone for everyone's segment kind of lined up with each other.
Yeah, and I think that was my favorite thing about the film overall. Like I said, I don't have a favorite segment. They were all amazingly done. And I like the fact that it was more of a psychological anthology, because you don't really get that. When you see horror anthologies, you got to have the blood and the guts and all that. And we do get a little of that in one of the segments. But other than that, I felt the rest was one long psychological horror anthology. And I think that's like really fresh to the genre of the horror film.
That's you're talking to someone that like loves like Friday the 13th and never knows. I mean, I love splatter stuff. I mean, I'm not going to be pretentious and say I don't, but
right.
But I think overall I probably lean more towards more like violent tones than actual a lot of violence. More like psychological kind of tones where it's kind of getting into your guts more than showing you a bunch of splatter.
Exactly, and I think that's what Phobias does. It doesn't doesn't have to rely on splatter. It relies on just messing with your mind, and I think it's an amazing film. I think people definitely need to see this when it comes out.
Yeah, I hope they dig it.
So finally, what can we expect next from you?
We're like pretty deep into another feature that we're hoping to shoot this fall. I mean, it's kind of like it's a very sort of it's a pretty COVID friendly story actually. It's pretty contained. It's kind of like a play on film.
Mm-hmm.
It's mostly a two-hander for like 3/4 of the story.
Mm-hmm.
I guess maybe it's kind of Angel Heart is probably like the best comp I could think of. Like if we're talking like old school comps, like I don't know if you ever saw Angel Heart.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely classic.
It's kind of like that. Kind of like it's sort of like an erotic, psychological horror drama.
That's awesome. And I gotta tell you, I've been a big fan of your films since ever since Drifter and then Monster Party. And you knocked it out of the park with your segment here in Phobias, and I'm definitely looking forward to this next project from you.
Thank you, man. I mean, I think I think this new project is I think it's definitely like I think creatively it seems like a big step forward. I'm pretty jacked about it. I'm excited to get rolling on it.
That's awesome. So Phobias is coming out on March 19th, and those who want a new fresh approach to the horror anthology will enjoy this psychological horror anthology. And Chris's segment is just one of 5 that are just amazingly brilliant to watch. And Chris, thank you so much once again for taking the time to talk about your films. And man, I can't wait to see more of your work.
I love talking to you, man. Thank you so much, Albert.